Hello model car fans, welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Ral, and this week I'm going to feature a build of mine here. This is actually from 2012, so it's not a really old build, but it's a 70 Pontiac GTO, and it has the Judge option. So I built this one from the MPC kit. It's a good kit. It's gotten kind of hard to find lately, and I've seen it's gotten expensive, but it's one that seems to have found its way to me multiple times, but I have fond memories of it. But so I built this one. This is Orbit Orange, which is the featured color for the 1970 GTO Judges. A little bit more of a canary yellow color, somewhat orange, but not quite as orange as the 69's Carousel Red. So for 1970, you can get any color you wanted in the Judge, but this was the featured color, so I had to do it in this color. I like the color. But that was the featured color. And then notice the wheels are actually painted silver and no trim rings, even though this one kind of does have trim rings because the model kit comes that way. But I painted them silver, trying to replicate that it doesn't have trim rings because the Judge package did not have trim rings. But the Judge package was a $335 option on top of the standard GTO. But the Judge option left you with mostly two engines. The 400s. So for GTO in 1970, you had the Ram Air 3 400, the Ram Air 4 400, that was around port heads and pretty radical cam. That's the motor that was pretty much legendary for its time. Also, the 455 HO was available in 1970, but it was not available in the Judge package at first. I understand the 455 HO package came out a little later towards the end of the year, and it became available in the Judge package, but it was available in the regular GTOs. However, the 455 was more of a torque monster. It's not the same 455 that for 71 and 72 that made a lot more power. This one had the same cam as the Ram Air 3, and it was mainly the torque was the big difference when you stepped up to that motor, where the Ram Air 4 was the higher winding, higher horsepower. But I believe the 455 was rated at 370 horsepower. But I don't have all the figures in front of me. I try to commit as much of this to memory, believe it or not. I just constantly read and study, and I live and breathe cars, as you can tell. Probably one of my favorite GTOs. It's not, I have a hard time picking my favorite of certain ones, and the GTOs is one of them. One of the things, I really love this front end, the Endura bumper, the headlights, the grille, the hood, and everything. So everything on the front end of this car, I really like. The entire body, the way it's shaped and swept. I like the way it looks. Not a big fan of the actual factory decals, the stripes here. But I love this wing and the way it stands out. But for me, don't really care for that bumper and taillight arrangement. Just never really have. But that's, again, it's all personal preference. But I always love those quad exhaust tips in the roll pan and the way they did that on that. And the stance. So for this car, those are some of the, things I really love about it and some of the things that I don't care for on it. But I just never really got that rear bumper on the setup. Even though when it comes to this rear bumper, this kit, the 70 kit, has a much nicer fitting rear bumper to the body than the 71 and 72 kits. The 71 annual kit has a really wide bumper, and it says 1971. The 72 kit has the same wide rear bumper, but no license plate. But for some reason, this 70 kit, the tooling in the rear bumper is actually narrower. So I actually made molds and cast this bumper and used it on my 71 projects. So you'll see that in one of my builds, because I've been playing with and attempting to do the 71 build that I have that I kind of teased in the past, but I need to get that going. But this one is mostly out of the box, not 100%. I didn't really go too much on this one, but there's a few things that I had to update or correct. The decals are Keith Mark decals, and then the paint is actually Orbit Orange. From Scale Finishes, and I sprayed that on with my airbrush, and of course it's all bare metal foiled. The wing, that's an older resin item. I got it from AFX and Scale a long time ago, but I think in 2012 they were still around. but I think I got it before then. I actually ended up buying 3 of the wings from them. I wish I bought a 4th one because I've used 2 of them. I still have 1 left, and I want a 4th one. So I may actually make a mold and cast the 4th one, even though it still needs a lot of cleanup, and it's not very, it's not great, but it's not horrible. But this is a pretty simple wing, so scratch building it shouldn't be too much of an issue also. But on this one, I built it pretty much out of the box. Let's pull the hood off here. And then the blackout scoops, that's a Judge feature. And then I had to put the hood tack on it. You can't do a GTO without the hood tack. And blacked out the bottom side. But there's your typical MPC, not the greatest detail. And it's got the big blower cut out on it. You do the body work to it and you can get it to line to disappear. And this has my real automotive clear on it that I sprayed on it. And then there's the engine. Pretty simple, pretty basic. Not the greatest, but it's mostly out of the kit. This air cleaner is not. It's a resin. Actually got it from Missing Link. He cast them a while back. I don't believe he's casting them anymore. Really don't know. I kind of get hesitant about bringing up resin items lately because, you know, there's a lot of resin stuff, but you got to get it when you can get it because, you know, it's here today, gone tomorrow type stuff. So, but there's under the hood, not a whole lot of detail. I did add the rearview mirror from the 69 Camaro kit from Revell. Anytime I get a chance to pick up one of those for parts, that's one of the things I grab all the time is that. And the interior is stone stock. This one, it's kind of like the stick when it comes to this one, because a lot of the MPCs have automatics, but this one's not too big. The engines are sticks. The transmissions, a lot of the MPC kits have a manual transmission, but a lot of the interiors are automatic. And MPCs, I like the body and the simplicity of the build, but they're not the easiest ones to build. But so there's the detail on the underside. As you can tell, this is the last issue, 87 issue. And I added the front chin spoiler, so if you see the chin spoiler right there, it's kind of scratch built from pieces. I think most of it's from leftover Trans Am front spoiler from one of the 70s Trans Ams. And then I made a bracket to make it fit. But this one, not a whole lot of detail to this one. Just built it, not really out of the box, but mostly out of the box with what MPC gives you. But it's one that I really enjoy. And I have fond memories because when this kit was new in 1987, I had gotten my hands on one. So here it's and it's one that I just can't, you know, pass up for some reason. Well, I can now, only because I've actually, so I remember buying one new, and in 87, or my mom buying it for me, because at that time I was probably 13, 14, and I spray painted it black. I remember using these decals, and I did use the custom wheels, and I do not remember what color interior I did it on, but it came out pretty decent, and I managed to get the front end to fit, because this is a separate piece, and it's kind of a pain to get, but getting it all to fit. But it's not a horrible fitting model. It needs some cleanup. It's not the worst, but you know, it's showing its wear by then. And for some reason, it was modified into like a dirt track car. So this has never been reissued since this 87 issue. So they've gotten hard to find. And but for me, I wanted one. It took me a while to find one, and then they started to just come my way. So like I built this one. When I wanted this one, I was looking all over, and I eventually found one. I don't get too eager to find them because some of them, if you're patient, they come your way. So I'd gotten this one, and then I remember I picked up another one, came my way. So I picked, it's probably this one. And then I remember being at a show, and for some reason there was a guy there that had one, and it had a busted up A-pillar, but everything was in there. But for some reason I had a 63 Corvette AMT kit, you know, very plentiful kit, and for some reason he wanted that kit, and he offered to trade any of the kits he had, and And I said, I'm interested in that 70 GTO. He goes, yeah, take it, trade. He goes, and then I opened it up and I saw the damaged A-pillar, but no big deal. So I took the kit and traded it for a very common, AMT 63 Corvette coupe. So, and that one, I'll show you the results of that one because I did build it. And some of you have been asking, why I don't do super detailed builds on my model kits, but I do, but not very often. I really don't get that detailed into all of the details that go along with them. So I do have a 70 GTO convertible because the A-pillar was broken. So I cut the roof off, reshaped the quarter panels, made it a convertible, did a resin windshield frame for Model Haas. Then I kit bashed the entire engine compartment and the entire chassis from an AMT 69 Hurst Olds. I kit bashed all of that in, and I used a 400 from Revell's 68 Pontiac Firebird. So I really kit bashed one of them, and that one's got a lot of detail. And I went so far as to put wires, heater hoses, brake lines. I really went to town on that one. But I figured I would show you this one first because I was half tempted to show you both of them. But I'm like, nah, I'll show you this one first and then show you that one at a later date with more of the detail on it. Because that one's gotten a few awards showing it here and there. Well, I think at least one. But for me, this is one. And I remember my original build, black and everything. One of the reasons I remember that so much is what I did to it. By the time it was getting worn and I had a couple of parts broke off and I glue it back together, and as I was getting better at models, it was one of my not so good ones. And I remember I would tear them apart, use them for parts, or just take certain things from them. But that one, for some reason, I took it out, put it on a tray, like a cookie tray, and I put it in the oven. And I watched it melt. I just sat there and I turned the oven on and I watched the thing melt. And I watched the whole body twist and warp and the thing melt down and the tires go flat. That to me was something that I'll never forget. And then of course I got yelled at because it melted and it started to stink up the oven, and my mom was really not too happy with me. But I'll never forget that. And I enjoyed building it. It was one of the more difficult builds at that age and time for me, and the feeling of accomplishment and getting it done and getting the decals on, because that was when I was fairly starting out. I'd been doing a few here and there for a couple of years now at that time, but I was just starting getting into painting them, a little bit more detail, because you start with snap kits or you throw them together, you don't paint them. And at the time, late 80s was a lot of the monogram hot rod series cars. That's most of the ones I picked up. So when I picked up an AMT or an MPC, they were usually older tool kits, and there really wasn't any of they have nice ones that they've made since then, but back then an AMT kit was simpler and an MPC kit was simpler. But compared to the monogram and Revell kits at the time, they were easier to build with a little bit more detail but not as many parts. And these were a little harder to build, so I took it as more of a harder kit to build, but I really enjoyed building it, and the feeling of accomplishment, and then just the memory of destroying the thing. So, and then for the longest time I couldn't find another one, and then with eBay and the internet coming out, I had searched out and waited, and I eventually was able to get this one for, I remember being a decent price, but now that I've got this one and this one's unbuilt, and I've even got a fourth kit that's sealed inside unbuilt. So I mean, I could show you guys the contents of one of these if you really wanted to see, but I'm pretty sure most of you know what's in them. But I enjoyed building this one, and I hope you enjoyed seeing it, and I'll show you the other one another time, so you can really see the detail that I put into that one. But this one was somewhat of a quick build, but I did scratch build the spoiler, change out the air cleaner, add the wing and the decals, and just enjoyed building a nice presentable GTO Judge here. So thank you for letting me ramble on and show you this, and Thank you for your comments and sharing and subscriptions, and hit that bell button so you can get my latest uploads, of course. So thank you, and you guys, you have a wonderful Saturday, and I will see you next Saturday.